in the room. I appreciate also your patience as we'll go through the agenda and look forward to getting to your topics as we get there. It's 6:03 p.m. on April 14th. So we'll call this meeting of the Wilmington Economic Development Committee to order. Let's see, I will read the blurb at the beginning of this as it relates to the virtual meetings. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Economic Development Committee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Members of the public who would like to participate in the meeting via Zoom can do so by clicking on the link provided in the agenda that is posted on the town's website. Members of the public who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may also do so via telephone by dialing 1-646-558-8656 and entering the meeting ID, which tonight's meeting is 819-2573-2005. Then press pound and pound again at the next voice prompt. Excuse me. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment. Sorry, I got to change some of this language. This isn't a hearing. By following the steps previously noted and pressing *9 on their telephone keypad or using the quote raise hand unquote function in Zoom. This will notify the meeting host that the caller wishes to speak. In the event that despite our best efforts, we are not able to provide for real-time access, we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as we are able. Thank you. Agenda item number 1 is roll call. So I see that I'm here. Carol is here. Greg is here. Lil is here. Pat Giroux is here. Nancy's here. Rob is here. Suzanne's here. Valerie's here. Miriam is here. And Paul is here. 100%. That's really impressive. Thank you all for carving out the time to be here tonight. Thank you. Approval of minutes from March 18th. And so I'm going to do this. Give me just a moment here. Valerie had captured some notes. It was you, Valerie, right? Yes. Some textural changes. So we can discuss any other changes that people would like to make, but by and large, these are style and or what's the word I'm looking for?
And I apologize. I added Miriam's last name. I think I just sent the wrong one out, but I captured Valerie's changes and incorporated those already. So thank you for showing those.
So yeah, the reason I wanted to show it with the markups, just for the rest of the members, so that we don't duplicate the efforts, right? These are changes that are already reflected, and unless there's a reason not to make these changes, we would proceed to make them upon approval by the rest of the board. Are there other changes that folks would like to see? So take a moment, I suppose, and look them over and compare to any notes that perhaps you have.
I would just say at the top, did you change that from February?
Yep.
Yep. And then I would just say there's just a few more typos in there, like amended and approved.
Yep, I got those.
Yeah, those type of things.
Yeah.
Then I think where you were down, number 3, professional videos to the town website. Professional video for WAC. I think it's for the town website. Is that correct?
Nancy, I'm sorry, I'm going to pause for a second. You're echoing wicked bad, Nancy. We can hardly hear what you're saying. I don't know if you have a microphone issue or.
Okay, I'll stop talking. Okay, continue.
Okay.
No, you sound better now.
Yeah, it's a little bit better. Repeat what you were saying about item number 3.
I'm hearing an echo too. It was professional video for town website instead of for WAC. Okay. And then I think the board to use, Nancy asked for the board to use $1,500 or $1,000 in business sponsorships and $1,500 from the planning department.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely sent the wrong thing. Okay.
Down number 6.
Yep.
I just wanted to add in the people that I am getting it, so I'm really sorry. Carol, Suzanne, Miriam, Mike, Rob, and Nancy with the survey. I think
What, here?
further, yes. Carol, Suzanne, Rob, Miriam, Mike, and Nancy. Rob and Nancy also did the surveys.
So you want to add Rob and Nancy to this list of names that offered to help?
Yes, that did
Yes.
help. Yep, yep. And then you have the next meeting date of April 14th.
Oh yeah, that's noted right here. Lil, number 9, you didn't note the date. Okay. Tonight's date. That's pretty comprehensive. Anybody else see anything that needs to be changed for these minutes?
No.
Okay, so I guess I would accept, it's funny, I'm trying to adjust so I can see you all. Forgive me here for just a second.
Mike, just number 7, that first line, I don't know if you guys caught it. I couldn't see it. It says, Greg said the, so I don't know, that might be corrected, but I can see it. Not a big deal. It's just. So
Greg
number-
said that, actually. That's the way sometimes he talks.
I didn't want to say that, but I'm glad who I.
I appreciate you.
I agree. So that's the thing as far as that Greg said, yeah.
It's okay as written, Rob?
No, I don't. Is that how you said it, Greg? Is that what you said?
Oh.
No, I took out the extra.
Oh, okay.
We're good.
Greg said that, though.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it should just be no problem. Got it.
All right. So I'm going to stop the share and we'll take it to a vote. Is that okay, everybody? Anybody want me to leave it up here? Okay. So I would accept a motion to approve those adjusted minutes, adapted.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the comments as noted.
All right. Motion's made by Rob. Any second?
Second.
By Greg. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll go across. Valerie?
Yes.
Mike is a yes. Miriam?
Yes.
Lil?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yeah.
And Rob?
Yes.
Unanimous. Thank you all very much. And thank you, Lil, for making those corrections. I know you'll get them to the town clerk promptly.
Yep.
Agenda 3 is the standing kind of carve out time to hear from Valerie about any economic related projects or things that she's aware of that have gone through town hall or specifically through the planning office. So I always feel reluctant to throw you against the wall here, Valerie, or corner you with questions, but always anxious to hear about anything that you're hearing about that may be coming down the pipe.
Always happy to report. Not
you.
not a lot to say tonight, though. I guess the one thing, I worked with Nancy. We came up with just a really short blurb to send out to some of the businesses about outdoor seating, instructing them to get in touch with the Board of Health regarding the temporary seating for the summer for COVID. And then longer term, getting in touch with my office if they'd like to have permanent outdoor seating and sort of change their site around to accommodate that. But other than that, I haven't heard a whole lot of new news about business activity. I don't know if Nancy's heard anything.
Nothing new. One thing that we were talking about today was that Ace Hardware. And that is leaving that side and moving to the other.
So the existing, is it, what is it? What's the brand that he has now? I've forgotten.
It's True Value, but
True
it's going to be Ace. It's the same owners. They're just going into the adjacent spot where there's more space.
So he's moving over. So the True Value is going to be vacant after the move.
That's correct.
Okay. That was unclear to me whether he was expanding into both or moving from one to the next.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Okay.
I did notice that where the subway was, that a small motorcycle shop opened. It looked like it opened recently
It's
in that
a,
space.
yeah, it's a spin studio for Ironclad.
Oh, what is it? I'm sorry.
It's a spin studio.
Oh, a spin. Oh, I thought it said something about
Yeah.
motorcycle. Okay. Well, it's a business. We'll take it.
Right.
Okay.
It's funny. I can see why you would think that. That's, ironclad. It does have that, the logo does sort of invoke.
Oh, I thought it's, yeah. Okay.
I suppose if you get going on the spin cycle enough, you could
Yeah.
motorize the damn thing.
And the new nail place is opening too over there by Savers. I actually talked to the owner's brother when he was setting up the computer systems and stuff, and I think he said they're opening this week.
Interesting. So where is it, Carol? If I'm
Right
looking
next-
at that plaza.
Right next to Pie Me Over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A nail
across from
salon?
Market Basket.
Yeah.
All right. It's good to hear about businesses opening and less about businesses closing.
No kidding.
Hopefully a good trend.
It
Anything
did look
else?
like that Adriana's over by Lucci's looked like it might be open, that permanent makeup place.
So if nothing else, we'll be beautiful in Wilmington.
Yeah.
And well fed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said, the trend hopefully is in a positive direction. Certainly, we have a lot of work to do to try to fill some vacancies, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, we'd rather be talking about new businesses coming than existing businesses leaving. So I think that's a positive. Valerie, thank you. Is there anything else before I move on?
No, that's it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Nancy, we're expecting Maria from the Northeast, I'm sorry, from the Mass Office of Business Development. I don't see her here yet. I know you had been the liaison to connect with her.
Yeah, she's supposed to be here at 6:15.
Okay.
I'm actually going to jump off and log back in though to see if it's better.
All right. I don't see her jumping in here. So I'm not averse to going out of order. Let's let Nancy get back in, and then we can decide if we want to invite our existing guests that showed up promptly on time. Maybe we'll take them out of order.
Oh, Maria's coming in now.
Okay. Mike and Mike, I hope you don't mind. I appreciate your patience, but we're going to abide by the agenda here. And I apologize. We will hopefully get through our conversation relatively seamlessly. And then we'll take you up as soon as we get through that, if that's okay.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Not a problem.
Thank you. Good evening, Maria. I'll wait. Can you hear us? Okay, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I muted myself because my son was talking to me.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Good evening.
He can join the meeting too. He's welcome. So Maria, thank you for joining us. You have just joined the Wilmington Economic Development Committee and guests. So I know you and I and maybe Rob and a few others have had a conversation in the past, and I know you and Nancy have been communicating a little bit about your office and how you potentially can be a resource to the town of Wilmington, but specifically to the Wilmington Economic Development Committee. So we're happy to hear from you a little bit. We carved out, I don't even know, about how much time do you think you're going to need to have this conversation with us?
It's really, it all depends on what questions you have. I'm happy to, I did do a slide deck, but I'm happy to just have a conversation, like a casual one like this, whatever you feel most comfortable with. I just want to make sure you have the info and realize that and know that I can help you sort of get from A to B when you're thinking about a project.
The visuals of a slide deck, not that we, I'm certain we could have a good substantive conversation, but a slide deck sometimes can kind of keep the conversation, a little bit more focused. So if you want to put that up, maybe we can use it as a guide.
Why don't I think that's a great idea. Let me put it up, and I may not use all of the slides. So maybe like is 10-ish minutes, and then
yeah, for
time
sure.
for questions. Is that okay?
We carved out 10 to 15, I think, because we have another presentation after this, and I want to make sure everyone has ample time to converse, and we have some other meat on the bone. So we're anxious to hear from you just within that sort of time frame.
Sure, absolutely. Let me see. Bear with me. Sorry about that. In the meantime, while I find this, there it is. There it is. Perfect. Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you for your patience. Thanks again for inviting me tonight. I have a few slides. So I'm the Northeast Regional Director for the Mass Office of Business Development, and we are a sorry about that. Okay, so our team works closely with private and public sectors. So we work with businesses. We also work with municipalities, and MOBD helps businesses that are relocating to Massachusetts or businesses that are already here to expand. Excuse me. And we work regionally, and so I would be your go-to person for Wilmington. So we're also part of the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development. So we answer to Secretary Keneally, and a couple of the programs that that Wilmington has. One of them you have already taken advantage of, which is our EDIP program, because I believe you did a TIF for analog, not yet, somewhat recently. And we also have the Massachusetts Vacant Storefront program, which I'm happy to talk to you about in detail if that is something that people want to hear about. So sort of quickly, so the EDIP program really is our largest program that we administer, and it's designed to foster job creation and stimulate business growth. So companies receive state tax credits and local property tax incentives in exchange for job creation, job retention, and private investment commitments. So the first piece of this three-way partnership, I'm sorry, the second piece, right? First piece is the business, second piece is the municipality. So where this is really a municipally driven program, the TIF, which is tax increment financing, is an agreement between the business and the municipality. The state says, however, if you're going to enter into a TIF, we'd like to see a 5-year minimum for a 20-year maximum. On a TIF, the business pays the full tax rate on the base. It's only on the incremental increase that they might get a discount. And I'm going to show you, because I love this slide, the next slide, that kind of, I feel like that illustrates a TIF really well. So on the bottom is your base, is the property taxes before the investment. And then here is where, what the taxes would be. I'm sorry, the baseline growth, and then the assessed value is over here, and then what the new assessment and what the taxes would be with a TIF and without a TIF. So like I said, the discount, the minimum of 5% for a maximum of 100% would come off of just the incremental, just that delta. Some of the things that the Economic Assistance Coordinating Council is the board that would approve TIFs and our state tax incentives. So some of the things, the most important thing is, does a but-for exist, right? And so Wilmington, you all are going to consider, does a but-for exist, right? You're not going to, a company's not going to come in, break ground, put out a press release, hire people and start putting all their equipment in, and then say, well, I'd like my TIF now. It's not, it is all about, it's all about incentive. It's not a reward. So that's kind of something that you want to think about as well. And these are some of the things that really are important to the EACC, because they're going to ask that question. You know what, before I get to some of the other things that we offer, so the TIF is the second piece. And sort of the third piece, it depends on what type of business it is. So they're promising you all an investment, And on top of that, if they're going to create full-time jobs, sometimes the state can, on top of your TIF, incentivize those jobs. And it all depends on the business, the type of business it is, where it's located. So I will say a manufacturer in a gateway city is going to have the highest sort of per job incentive. That doesn't mean we're not going to incentivize companies that are not in gateways and companies that are not manufacturers. So a few of the other things that MOBD does. So we talked about the EDIP program. There's the STEP grants that are available through our sister agency, MOIDI, which is the Mass Office of International Trade and Investment. So for anyone a company that's looking for a grant for assistance to promote their product overseas, we can help with that. If you have a life science company coming, so let me say that we get this pot of money, right? And these are for tax incentives. So half of it kind of stays with MOBD and the other half goes to life sciences. So when it is a life science company coming for tax credits, the life science company, we refer them over to Mass Life Science Center. They are one of our quasis, and they're the folks that administer the life science tax incentives. We administer tax incentives to every other company. So if you are life science, you'd want to go to life science to get those tax incentives because those are much higher than ours can be. Workforce development and training. I mean, we've got things for companies. So I like to think of it as like other people's, other agencies' money, which I enjoy giving away. So we've got, so workforce development and training. We can help with, we'll connect that. If you talk to us about a business, we'll connect that business to, if they're looking to hire, even if they're already in town, they might, you guys are the ambassadors, right? They might come and they might see you at the grocery store and say, Mike, Valerie, whomever, like, I really, I've been struggling. I've got these, 6 positions I can't fill. It's been months. So, connect them to me. Even though I don't administer the hiring stuff, I'm going to connect them to our partners that do. So our Mass Hire partners. Another thing that we can do is training. We've got up to the state has up to $250,000 over a 2-year period for a company to do trainings. They can, it could be anything from English as a second language all the way up to management trainings. And it is a one-to-one match. And the good news is that payroll will go to that match. So that's a fantastic program. It's not a heavy lift for that grant application. And again, if it's coming through me, if you said to me, Maria, Acme, whatever down the street, they really need some help, I am happy to connect them, and I'll connect them to the outreach coordinator, who's fantastic, and she'll walk them through the grant process. And so they'll have someone that's holding their hand through the entire process. Another thing too with that grant, which I love, is let's say it was a class that they didn't see on this list of things that they could do. They can actually, we can connect them with the local community colleges, and they can work with the company to actually start building the curriculum for the class. And then the community college on top of that will then help them, the company, to apply for the grant. So it's really a win-win. For your really smaller ones, like Main Street type businesses, we've got free business planning assistance, free general business counseling. We've got folks that, are they looking to, do they need financing? Well, I've seen people that, this is the shoebox of receipts that I keep under my bed, and that's how I do my financials. Well, that's not going to fly at a bank. So we can have someone sort through all, and help them, get them on some sort of software and help them understand what it would take to be financed. And speaking of financing, we've got financing partnerships. So we've got, there's some lending arms of the state, like Mass Growth Capital Corporation. They're small. their lending, I'm sorry, their lending is smaller. They also have technical assistance attached to some of their lending. They're mission-based, so sometimes their money is not always the least expensive, but they can also work with your own lender, because they want to get that loan made, and they will do various things to get it done. For larger companies, we've got mass development, and they will lend money on housing. They'll lend money to nonprofits, manufacturers. So it's always good to, you know, as you're looking at a larger project, so that they're not going to lend money to retailers, right? So mass development is going to be for larger projects, but as you're looking at larger projects, it's always worth a conversation with our partners at mass development. And, you know, startup assistance, of course, we can, as I said, we can help with business plans and such. And one more thing I wanted to mention before I move on is the infrastructure support. I don't know if you all have tapped into the MassWorks grants through the state. That is to help with infrastructure support. They're typically tied to a project. You have a mass life science company looking to go into a parcel. The utilities, they need help getting the utilities over to that parcel. It would be prohibitive for them to do it. The city can't, the town can't do it, so maybe MassWorks will. Which actually brings me to, I might ask you all about the One Stop, if you've looked at the One Stop portal at all or heard about it. Okay, so through the state, we have come up with something called the One Stop portal for growth. I'm going to send you I'll send you the link after this, because we're encouraging municipalities to put in a letter, an expression of interest. And rather than say, okay, let me see, I have this brownfields that I'd like to have, I'd like to get some assistance on. And then 3 months later, you're like, okay, oh yeah, that's right. The MassWorks grant is coming out now. And like 2 months later, some other grant is coming out. So rather than you needing to know which dates and how often the cycles go and when we are issuing RFPs, you're going to plug the information one time. You're going to tell us what you want to do, and you're going to put it into the One Stop portal. And we're going to kind of let you know, hey, that's a great idea. Here's some of the programs that we think would fit, rather than you all as volunteers trying to do all of that homework and do that lift. We're going to try to help take some of that burden off. So I will definitely send you that email, the link. I talked about Mass Hire Career Centers. There's on-the-job training. So Mass Hire Career Centers work with both the business and so the employer and the employee. So it's really a good match. They do a nice job of screening, pre-screening the resumes. And there are some other, I talked about Workforce Training Fund, the Safety Training Grant. That's different than workforce training, and the Safety Training Grant is through industrial accidents. That's up to $25,000 for OSHA type training. And that's a very easy one, and that is coming out in May. So I'll make sure that at least one of you on the committee gets on that mailing list. So when she puts out the RFP, you'll get it, and you'll be able to share it with your businesses. A free safety consultation, that is where you invite folks from the state to come in and sort of look around and do an audit for you, so that you can discover issues ahead of time, if in case you ever did have an OSHA audit. And then the second to last slide. So this is my my smaller business slide. So I talked about the getting your finances together. I talked about marketing plans and talked about business plans. That's all through the Mass Small Business Development Center. So MOBD, along with the SBA, we fund the Mass Small Business Development Center. So all their services are free. And one more that I think that might apply is the Supplier Diversity Office, so SDO. If you come across a business that is woman-owned, veteran-owned, minority-owned, etc., the state can help them get certified, and then they can also tell them, okay, well, great, you're certified. What is that? So if I have a business, and let's say I have a retail shop on Main Street, I'm a woman-owned business, and I get certified. Well, what does that mean? What are the benefits for me? And so they will help promote that business as well. And then my last slide has just my contact info. If you're interested, I'm happy to send this along, and I'll actually put the one-stop portal in there as well. Is that something?
I think so, yeah. You can send it to me or Nancy, Maria, and we'll make sure that the rest of the committee here receives this information for any questions or follow-up concerns or whatever that they may have directly with you.
Great. And I know I sort of went through this quickly. Should I take this down?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay, okay.
But I appreciate it. I think it was a good guide to get through the bullets effectively.
I mean, honestly, sure.
I have a question. By the way, I've used the workforce development grant in companies that I work for, and it was fabulous.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it. Thank you, Carol.
Yeah, I was thinking it might be a nice, because some of the stuff that you provide is for towns and so forth, but a lot of what you just talked about is really for businesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is there a way that we could maybe be the liaison between you and the businesses in town via our, I guess I should be asking you, Mike, via our website? In other words, could we have like a very simple boiled down synopsis with links, you know, and promote it to our businesses? I don't know that we're as, at least I wouldn't feel comfortable, for example, going around any particular business and talking in depth about any one of your programs. I'm not, you know, I don't know enough about it, but it would be nice if we could have some way to kind of link what you do and promote that, you know, for the businesses, that we have a way for you to access some really great state programs.
I would love that, Carol. And I'm sorry, forgive me. My allergies are killing me, and I took the pill too late. So here we are. I'm sorry. But Carol, I would love that. And absolutely, I don't know if MOBD is on the site, but besides the tax incentive program, like our other big sort of piece of our job is to be that go-to person, right? So if a business comes to you and says, I need this, or I'm looking at Wilmington, or whatever it is that they tell you about, I can get them connected. I can get them from A to B. And to your point, Carol, like we're also generalists, right? Except for my programs, obviously I know them inside out, right? But everybody else's programs, I like to say I know enough to be dangerous. So I know enough, Carol, that if you said to me, you know, one of the businesses that I talked to said, you know, they're having a hard time filling jobs that require a PhD. Well, that's most likely not going to be mass hire. That's most likely going to be a connection to, you know, life sciences or mass bio, right? So I just gave you like a snapshot. There's we work with probably 30 quasi-governmental and governmental agencies on a daily basis. And then when there's like outliers, then we can connect you with something that they need as well. So no, absolutely. I would love to do that. And I think that as soon as you hear that someone is looking at your town, or someone is already in town and they're struggling, or they're doing great, I want to hear from them. So the best way is to just send me an email and say, hey, Maria, I want you to meet Sally. She, you know, is a small manufacturer, but, you know, just got a government contract. She just got a Department of Defense contract, and she's looking to expand. Let's talk. It's never too early. Quite often it's too late for someone to talk to me about growth plans. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So what I think will make sense is when you send the information that you're going to email to me or to Nancy, please make sure that whatever the hyperlink is, whatever the website is to your primary address, whether it's, I'm not sure if it's at mass.gov/ wherever you are, please include that. And I think what we'll do is we have a page on the town's website with various resources. Some of them were related to the pandemic from a year ago, and some of it has gotten kind of stale. And frankly, I think this information in your department makes sense to me, that we should have a link to it for businesses that maybe when they're looking at the town of Wilmington, they probably are finding our page. And I think it certainly makes sense that we should have access or give them access to reach out to you, if not through us, at least directly through the page.
You know what? But no, but if it's through you, then we're all sharing that information. Absolutely.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so unless, you know, that was how I envisioned us collaborating, was exactly your last little phrase or sentence, where you sort of talked about the hypothetical of a business that's considering moving to Wilmington. And presumably they would go through the planning process, or they start to make inquiries that one of us in this organization, this committee would start to hear of that. And we have a member from the Chamber of Commerce here. We have someone from the planning office. We have other folks that are working and living in and around the town. So as we become aware of those, that interested business party, then I can see us saying, okay, let's call Maria and let's get these parties together to make sure that they're availing themselves of all the resources that are available to them.
You're speaking my language. I love it. I think that's a great idea. And anytime any of you feel like, because I know I'm taking up a lot of this meeting, but I'm excited. I love when people are excited about our programs. So, you know, if there's anything you wanted, like a deeper dive on, so if there's, even if it's just a couple of you that wanted to be the TIF experts, let's figure out when we can take half an hour together and we'll do a deep dive. And then, you know, there's a couple of you that are the TIF experts, right? If someone says, you know, I need to know everything there is to know about mass development, let's invite mass development to talk to you for 10 minutes. They've got so many programs, and a lot of them, some of them, yes, are for businesses, but some of them are for municipalities as well, like the brownfields, the underutilized properties is for municipalities. The PACE program is for municipalities. So happy to, you know, and I'm happy to arrange that as well. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm your ally, and I, you know, I would love to know what you want to do, and I'm happy. So I want to take my cues from you.
What popped into my head, and I want to make sure I go to everybody, was the Mass Vacant Storefront program. I don't want to get into the weeds on it now, but we have vacant storefronts. And so if there's a program, we ought to be, maybe we're missing out on something and we don't even know about it. And I want to make sure that's not the case. So I'll follow up with you personally on that one.
Okay.
Let me go around the room here real quick. Are there anyone that would like to ask questions or make comments on the presentation we just heard? Looks like Rob's trying to. No, Rob, you're muted, but okay, you're good. So Maria, I say thank you very much for your time, for your presentation, for what you guys do, and stay tuned as we continue to evolve as a committee and learn about what's happening at the state. We will avail ourselves of your great services, and I look forward to the next project that brings us together.
Please do. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to talk to you all. And I will definitely, I'd love for someone to just kind of look into the One Stop. Okay, so I'm going to send you that information as well.
Outstanding. I look forward to receiving it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Have a great
Good
evening.
night.
Thank you.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Sorry, we went a little long, Mike and Mike, so I appreciate your patience with that. But I do believe that was worthwhile presentation. And again, just to echo what I just said, I just want to make sure we're not missing out on things that are available right underneath our nose. So we'll stay in touch with Maria. Our number 6 agenda item was really spurred by me with regards to Article 60 on our upcoming town meeting. I became aware, I can't even remember exactly where, but I became aware of what the nature of Article 60 was. And I reached out to Mr. Newhouse, who is sponsoring the article, to try to get a little bit of a better understanding of what it is. And my understanding was that it was a change of zoning from what is currently a residential zone to a commercial zone. And immediately upon hearing that, I thought, well, that feels like it has an economic development kind of undertone to it. So I confirmed that what I thought was true was true. And then I asked Mr. Newhouse if he would be willing to come and visit with us tonight, just to explain to us what it is that Article 60 is about, at least within the context and through the lens of economic development. That's that's really where our focus is. I'm sure there are other concerns, and they're all good concerns, but from an economic development standpoint, I felt like we wanted to be aware of what Article 60 is about, and potentially, offer any kind of opinions on it. So without further ado, Mr. Newhouse, thank you very much. I also, Mr. Newhouse, I didn't want to gloss over you, Mr. Kyra, but I'm going to leave it to Mr. Newhouse to introduce why Mr. Kyra is here. And then I'll back away and let you guys run the show. 15, 20 minutes of presentation time, Mike, if that's okay. And then we'll offer up questions and comments. And that's kind of where my head was at. If that's consistent with yours, we're in good shape.
That's great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all the members of the committee for taking a few minutes to hear about what our plans are. In keeping with the chairman's suggestion, I thought it would make sense for me to go through a few slides and orient the members of the committee to where this proposed rezoning would occur, and then have Mr. Kyra take over and address some of the specific economic development related issues that I'm sure the committee would be interested in hearing about. I practiced today, so I hope I get this right. I'm going to try and share some slides here if I could. Okay. So the slide that I'm looking at, I hope everybody else is an aerial photo that has the project site identified. And is that up on the screen? Am I starting off on the right foot here, Valerie?
Well done, well done.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, so the property that our client owns is in excess of 37 acres. And I'll show you on another slide where the various parcels are. But for the purposes of this discussion, the important piece is this area right here that's identified generally as the project site. And just to orient folks, it is located directly adjacent to on and off ramps for Route 93. It's located with frontage along Route 125 right here. It is a stone's throw from Route 93 north and south, which is up to the top left of the screen. And it's directly across Route 125 from what I refer to as the AGFA site, but it's actually the home of a number of tenants at this point, probably the largest of which is Osram. And this aerial photo is a little bit dated in that this corner of the intersection here along the Ballardvale Street Route 125 intersection across from our site, it has recently been developed as the Habit Burger, if that helps to orient folks. And then you can see over here we have a couple of large office and related space. These buildings have Ballardvale Street addresses in front along 125 as well. I had mentioned that our site and our client's property is comprised of a number of different parcels. The heart of the development area that we're referring to is located here on these two parcels that are identified as R2-19A and R1-2A. Our client also owns down here this 103-24, which is essentially Ainsworth Road, and also owns this piece across the street, which is a little bit more than 3 acres, but that is what I would characterize as jurisdictional land, not developable. We've included all of it in the warrant article. It's likely that we're going to omit the piece across the street and a piece down here just because they're not relevant. This parcel right here, R1-6A, that's a little over 19 acres. That's currently owned by the town. And that's Article 97 land, which is, protected in terms of its use. It's what you might generally characterize as being in the control of the Conservation Commission, even though it is actually comprised of quite a bit of uplands. This yellow over here, which is a little bit more pale yellow, and this is directly from the GIS map, by the way, with the layering system. But this slightly paler yellow over here across the street, that's the Osram site and the Habitburger site and those other office and associated space, big buildings over here. That yellow represents the highway industrially zoned property, which is directly across the street. So we're looking to change the zoning here to comport with the zoning that's across the street as well. When all is said and done, it's our hope that after town meeting, this area here that I had described, which is, again, is something to the order of 23 to 24 acres. I should note that the development area, the footprint of the development is actually only 9 acres, but it would be on this site, which is more fairly characterized as about 23 plus acres. This piece right here, R1-1, we have not included in the article. We've done that intentionally because we expect that if the town votes to rezone this, our client is prepared to gift this parcel to the town to add to this piece over here that the town already owns. So in addition to the nearly 20 acres that are already owned by the town, this would be an additional 13 plus acres that would serve as an additional buffer. I want to be clear to the committee, as I hope that I was clear to the Finance Committee and Planning Board at their joint public hearing, and certainly tend to be a town meeting. Our client right now does not have an agreement, doesn't have a signed letter of intent. Our client is interested in considering various alternatives that would be, what the town would be consider an asset to the community. And so based on that, we have come up with, out of the numerous potential uses that this rezoning would allow, we've focused on 3 of what I would call preferred conceptual plans. And I would characterize the plan that's on the screen here now as what we think is the most preferred. And certainly Mr. Kyra will speak to that. But one conceptual plan would be a proposed hotel that would be a little over 60,000 square feet of a building size, which would allow for 120 rooms plus or minus, would also provide for a full service restaurant on the same site. That building would be significant, in excess of 6,000 square feet. So certainly appropriate for a better style restaurant. And then a couple of other smaller pads, which could allow, among other things, a couple of more limited service restaurants that might accommodate different times of day, have different peak hours than the general restaurant. In addition to that potential use, we've also discussed the prospect of a 60,000 square foot retail building. If we were to see such a building on that site, it would also still allow for a couple of limited service restaurants. And I should mention that all of these concept plans certainly would have to go through a rigorous regulatory review, but all of them in terms of zoning and developable area and so forth, parking requirements based on use, all of these proposed developments would comport with conforming zoning requirements. I also should mention that all three of these proposed concepts would provide for access and egress directly off of Route 125. The engineering firm that's been hired by our client continues to work towards establishing the basis for a curb cut permit. That team has expressed a high degree of confidence that it will be able to get that permit. And so that curb cut, if successful, would be right here at that Ballard Vale Street intersection, which I would note is already a signalized intersection. The third preferred concept plan would include a proposed retail building to the order of 60,000 square feet with perhaps a proposed medical office next to it. We looked around and discussed as a team what types of development are likely to continue to be viable, you know, post-pandemic, and as e-commerce continues to go in the direction that it's going. What are the kinds of uses that we still would expect to have demand in terms of an office setting? And certainly we think that a medical use is a possibility and a viable one at that. So that's really all I have in terms of adjacencies and orientation. I think if Mr. Kyra can address some of the specific thought processes that we've gone through in terms of economic development, then we'd be happy to answer whatever questions the committee might have.
Thank you, Mike.
Sure. Is that okay, Mr. Chairman?
Keep talking, Mike. You came in really, really loudly, but it might just be adjusting to your voice.
Well, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. Am I too loud or am I too soft right now?
It was better at the end. It was pretty loud. I don't know if there's a way for you to control.
All right, I'll try to tone it down if I.
That's perfect, right there.
There we go. Thanks again for the opportunity to join Mike Newhouse and speak about this particular project. As Mike has mentioned, and I'll try not to go over ground that he's already covered, we felt that the Highway Industrial District allowed for the highest and best use of this particular area in town. It really fits the definition of the highway industrial, given the fact that it is right next to a highway and right opposite an industrial area. The highway industrial is something that was established to allow really for some amenities and some complementary businesses, such as restaurants and hotels and retail in an area that would be advantageous to businesses and industry that is already in that area. And it would also enable consumers to have an opportunity to utilize those businesses. At the same time, it kept large businesses like those that we're proposing away from neighborhoods and the main corridor. That was also a part of the thinking back in 2008 when the highway industrial came up. And even today, I noted that watching the finance committee meeting the other day, the town manager spoke, and he mentioned how he's been approached by various officials from the industrial sector who are looking for these kinds of amenities to be able to work better with their own clients and their own staff who come in from places all over the country and all over the world. Specifically, we see this in terms of economic development as something that provides a new revenue source and new growth. The concept of new property tax growth is that it comes in outside of the pie that you already have, so that all of us in town are paying taxes based upon a specific pie, so to speak. In this case, you expand the pie, and that way you add people to improve on the tax base, and those folks generate what is referred to as new growth. Now, I'm not an assessor, but I've had some experience in municipal government, and looking at comparables is something that we try to do in order to let folks know what we think the potential is for new sources of revenue in the town of Wilmington. So when you look at the hotel, I mean, as Mr. Newhouse said, there is no hotel chain that's locked in. I can assure you that you're not going to get the Ritz-Carlton or the Marriott Marquis or a Westin, but it's more likely that we're going to attract, and we've had some conversations, but we're going to attract something more on the order of a Courtyard or a Fairfield Inn or a Hilton or a Holiday Inn, that kind of a hotel. Looking up the street right off 93 in Woburn, for example, is a Marriott Courtyard. Now, we looked at Woburn because we were trying to find something that would assist us in coming up with a comp. And so the comps that we looked at, believe it or not, was the Target. The Target in Woburn is about 3,000 or 4,000 square feet larger than the Target in Wilmington. The Target in Woburn is valued at just over $15 million. The Target in Wilmington is valued at just under $15 million. So that gives us a sense that the assessors in those two communities are looking at like projects and like buildings in a like manner. So we then took a look at the Courtyard in Woburn, which is right off 93, the same as this would be, with easy access to Boston and near other industries. And when we looked at the Courtyard in Woburn, it's 80,000 square feet, and it is valued at just over $19 million. Now, this building, if it were to be a hotel, would be about 63,000 square feet. So it's about 75% in size in comparison. And those are the numbers we went by. We did it fairly conservatively to determine what we think the revenue sources would come to, or the actual revenue would come to, based upon those numbers. And conservative because it's easier to multiply 75% than 77.2 or whatever. And so that's what the number we took when we were looking at that. When you look at that property at $19.7 million, the Courtyard, and you reduce it to 75%, you come to about 14.75 million. When you look at the town's commercial tax rate, which is $31.43, and you multiply that out, you come to new growth tax property revenue at $463,000. Now, is that a locked guarantee? I don't think so. You know, you could be talking about 350 or 400,000, or you could be talking about 500,000. But in terms of comps, when you're looking at the property tax, and when you extrapolate it the way I just did, you're talking about $463,000 in a property tax increase, which would all be new growth. Now, the more exciting thing to me is that several years ago, many years ago now, the town established a hotel tax. Even though we didn't have a hotel, we established it at 4%, which is the highest that you can establish a local hotel tax in a community. Again, when you look at what we're looking at, a 120-room hotel, I took a conservative estimate of a 70% occupancy rate. Now, I know people in the hotel industry, and Nancy, you may be more familiar with this, or Valerie, or anybody on the committee, will typically tell you they try to get 80% on occupancy rates. But in this case, I took a conservative number at 70%. And when you multiply that out times the 120 rooms at an average of about $125 a room, then your new revenue source, one that the town has never had in the past, would come to about $153,000. So again, you're looking at anywhere from $140,000 to $170,000, depending upon occupancy rates, depending upon the cost of the room. The beauty of that is, and is as attractive as new growth is in property tax, is this is a new revenue source, one that the town hasn't had before. And I would liken it to the town when it adopted the local meals tax. And both former selectmen who are on this Zoom meeting, Mr. Shampoo and Mr. Newhouse, will remember that the town voted after much discussion to establish the local meals tax because it gave the town additional revenue without really having any significant effect on consumers. And that's what the hotel tax would do. And at the time it brought in, way back when it was established in the early 2000s, it brought in about $250,000. Today, if you look at the budgets and the financials that are prepared by the town, you'll see that it's bringing in about $400,000. Now, again, I don't have access to what an individual restaurant would bring in, but we have about 40 or so various restaurants, from Dunkin' Donuts to mom and pop stuff to full service, 7 or 8 full service restaurants in town. And there's about 40 of those. And today, you know, I shouldn't say today, prior to the pandemic, and it probably isn't that far off, but prior to the pandemic, we were up around 390,000, 93,000, I think in 2018 or 19. And the budget for the next 3 years was being budgeted at $400,000. I think that's a reasonable number. I guess if one could try to extrapolate that again and say that if you have 3 more restaurants, you know, 40 into 400,000 is $10,000. 3 more restaurants is $30,000. That probably, you know, is not the way to do it. But the point I'm trying to make is, again, you're going to have an opportunity to get additional meals tax from what would likely be a full service restaurant and 2 limited service restaurants. So I just wanted to bring that to the fore in terms of the revenue picture, and also in terms of economic development itself. I know that this committee is looking to encourage economic development. I think this is something that is ripe for the taking. It's an opportunity to put a development in that is not going to be obtrusive to any neighborhoods, that is not going to cause any kind of traffic issues in the areas that we think of on Route 38, 129, and the downtown neighborhood areas. You're going to have people coming off the highway, taking a right, going several hundred yards to a signalized intersection, and taking a right into that intersection without burdening the streets. And you're also going to offer an opportunity for consumers from Wilmington and residents from Wilmington to take advantage, as well as, and in particular, as well as the many, many employees in the Ballardvale, Andover Street area to take advantage of this kind of amenity. The other point I would make is that Mike indicated that about 15 or so acres of the property would be given to the town. And that's being done not as someone once made a comment that it would look like they were just trying to tie a ribbon on it. That's not what this is about. This is about answering the need and answering the request of the town of Wilmington. When we first came in to talk to officials in the town, we talked about this idea that we had, and it was pretty well received. I won't to characterize it any further than that, But one of the requests that came right away was, is there any way that we could get the property that you own that abuts our town-owned property? And we went back to our client, and the town wasn't offering to buy it. The town was looking to just acquire it. And we told him we thought that made sense, and he agreed that we would offer that to the town for aquifer protection. Now, that was something that the town requested, and that was, I think, indicative of who our client is. And if I could just take a second to mention who he is, and I'm sorry if I'm talking too long, but when you make a decision on a project like this, first and foremost, you want to look at the merits of the project. Does it make sense? Is it in the right area? Is it going to provide enhancement to the town, a financial enhancement? Is it going to provide new and better opportunities for folks that live and work in Wilmington? You make that decision, but you shouldn't make that decision alone. You should also look at who it is that's making the proposal. And I don't mean in this case, Mr. Newhouse or myself. I mean the gentleman who owns the parcel. The gentleman who owns the parcel is Dr. Farabaz Musay. And Dr. Musay is a scientist and an entrepreneur. He's somebody who is a leader in his field, someone who established a business in Wilmington called IntelliSense, which is still on Johnston Road, but he no longer owns it. And he's someone who is a PhD and a member of various nonprofit boards and organizations, such as the MIT Board of Fellows and others too numerous to mention, but all over the country. And he's also established a foundation where he's giving away millions of dollars. So you're talking about somebody who is a solid citizen who has demonstrated an interest in this town and in doing the right thing in the scientific and educational and arts and humanities community. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. I appreciate your indulging me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kara and Mr. Newhouse, for taking the time to visit with us tonight. Yeah, I think about it from a few different perspectives. I do have some questions, and I want to make sure that all the committee members have the opportunity to ask you guys questions while you're here. I wonder if either of you have any kind of data, and I appreciated, Mr. Kara, your data specifically as it relates to new growth and tax revenue specifically from the hotel scenario. You know, certainly from an economic development standpoint, tax revenue is important to the community. It helps run the community and helps do all the things that the community needs to do. But I also envision this area, if we're able to do one of those scenarios, ideally the hotel and restaurant scenario, and this is my thinking, not the committee's, at least not yet, that the ancillary benefit is what you alluded to, which is other would-be businesses who would want to consider locating in this region and maybe wouldn't consider it absent the kind of services, hotel, restaurant, additional services for their executives or for visitors or clients that are coming into town. They may look up more further north, Andoverish, or further south, Woburnish. And so we're in that kind of dead zone currently, and we have a lot to offer as a community. So this, to me, feels like, you know, a little bit of if you build it, they will come. But, you know, the tax revenue in and of itself is fantastic, but I do believe that there's these other layers of benefit from an economic development standpoint. What I was about to ask, and I put myself on a tangent, was currently this is zoned for residential, if I'm not mistaken. In the absence of this article passing at town meeting, what's the potential for residential development in terms of the number of houses and, you know, how much revenue could be generated for the town in residential tax base? Has that been calculated, or can you estimate that for us?
We have asked, Mr. Chairman, that the surveyor that's involved with solely engineering to generate a yield plan because that question or issue had been raised following the public hearing. Having said that, I don't want to send mixed signals. Our understanding that at this point, our client doesn't have any interest in developing the site under R60 residential zoning. You know, who knows what the future would hold. But frankly, we look at this site and we inescapably come to the conclusion that it doesn't make sense to build, you know, whether it's 6 or 10 or 15 McMansions in Wilmington with the front yard on Route 125 and the backyard on Route 93. So we will have a yield plan in the coming days or weeks, certainly by town meeting. But I just don't want that to, I don't want anybody to infer that that's plan B, because at this point it's simply not.
A fair answer. I'll allow my head's going in a few different directions, but I'm going to shut up and make sure the committee speaks here. So please, I won't go name to name. I'll put a hand up if you have a question, and I want to make sure you have the opportunity to ask it. Anyone? Mr. Bendel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Carr, Mr. Newhouse, for your presentation. I do have a question. First, I'll make a comment. This has a lot of positive potential for our town for a number of reasons, several of which you have already alluded to in terms of economic potential growth, growth to our commercial tax base. But I wondered if you could put up slide, Mr. Newhouse, I think it's slide 3. You can click on that one again. Yes, thank you. So it shows the potential of Article 61, that piece, I believe it's parcel R1-1, which would potentially be gifted to the town. And I can't help but think of all the other items on the town's wish list, whatever it might be, that might be desirable. I know I've been pretty outspoken about, like many others, the desire for a North Wilmington substation. And, you know, it's difficult for me to ignore that there is potential for some other benefits to the town with that parcel that may be gifted, in addition to the economic development positive possibilities. So I really appreciate you bringing this to us. This was a great opportunity for me to learn more about the specific article, and I look forward to supporting this moving forward. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bendel. Anybody else? Ms.
Mike,
Nelson, you're muted, Miriam.
yeah, I just had a question. So I forget who mentioned it, but that you were considering doing something other than retail because of the like how e-commerce is going and possibly like changes there and it not being viable in the future. Do you have any information on how the future of the hotel industry might be looking, given things like Airbnb and whatnot? Like, do we think that that's going to be, you know, sustainable for like a very long period of time? I just am very curious on this. I don't really know myself, so.
Yeah, and I also wouldn't profess to know. I'm not sure who exactly you know, could speak to that and give any guarantees. But I can tell you that there's a couple thoughts that come to mind in response to that point. And one of them is that in my, and I'm not a commercial developer, you know, I don't claim to be, but when I look at the direction of e-commerce and I talk to clients about their potential uses of property, I try and bring it down to a very fundamental question. And, you know, and I ask myself, can you do it on your cell phone? Can you do it on your iPad or your desktop? And if the answer is no, it's probably a viable commercial enterprise going forward. And so I think that things like a bed where one needs to put their head, notwithstanding the changes in the office environment and the business community, you know, there, as I understand it, have been inquiries at different times, being made to the town about the viability of a hotel in the town to support the existing businesses. And that goes back to Mr. Shampoo's point earlier about how this second layer of economic development is supporting the viable and valuable businesses, particularly in this neighborhood on the Ballardvale Street, where you have a number of big taxpayers who are good corporate citizens, and are not a burden on the town. And they have expressed an appetite for a facility like this. I also, the other point that I wanted to make, and you give me a chance to make a point that I felt like I didn't have a lot of time to do. And that is to be, transparent with folks and make sure that I'm clear that because we don't have a buyer that is under agreement or has a letter of intent, the question is often asked in any rezoning, if that's the case, what else could this be? Because we're looking at what I perceive to be our best case scenario and our best 3 case scenarios, perhaps, but what are the other possibilities? And so some of those possibilities are here on this chart. And sometimes it's easier to address that by talking about what cannot go here. And so what couldn't go here would be a vehicular dealership, an auto service, or car wash, that kind of a use, or any of these residential uses, which include some of the dense multifamily housing options that are available in some other locations. So, things like a bank, things like an amusement facility, which in Wilmington zoning is a little bit odd. If you look at the definition of an amusement facility, it would include, for example, a bowling alley or a skating rink. So, and warehousing down here, frankly, I don't think of that as the optimal use there, but I think that we have to be realistic in terms of economic development. And, in the direction that e-commerce is going, certainly warehouse facilities will be in demand in the future. So not a preferred use, but certainly a possible one. And so I wish we had, real data to assess the direction of the hotel industry. But I think the proof will be in the pudding on that as well. I mean, if the town sees fit to rezone this to permit such a use, if the market demands that, then there'll be a viable developer and buyer that would propose it and try and put the property under agreement.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you for the question.
Mike, could something like a casino or something like that end up on that site potentially?
No, and the reason why is because the state limits the amount of casinos by legislation, and right now they're at its limit. So there wouldn't be a site there. They also do it by regions, and so the casino for this region would be the Encore. It's an interesting question because back about 20 years ago, I was approached by a casino operator who wanted to come into Wilmington, and we didn't encourage it. I would be curious as to whether or not you would think it's a good idea or a bad idea, even though it can't go there.
As a North Wilmington Salem Street resident, I would think it was a bad idea.
Bad.
I have another question.
I did too at the time, and I still do, and that's why I never saw the light of day.
I have one other question too. Something of that size, I'm concerned, I'm sure it will be all figured in when all of this is if it comes to fruition, would be water and sewer and the impact on water and sewer in North Wilmington. But something of that capacity.
Well, I would just comment that one of the persons who believes it's a good project and has indicated a support is the water and sewer superintendent. And so I think that in and of itself indicates that, it would have the capacity for the utilities and would not would not provide a burden on the town.
Thank you.
This is for either of the mics. Just a couple questions on the property. For the hotel, would it have some meeting room space or conference space that would be, usable for obviously for businesses, but also for residents come in and say, whatever, my son had a communion, I want to host a party there. Would that be part of the plan?
That would be our hope. We would like to see it also serve in some respect as a conference type site, so that it could accommodate meetings of various organizations, and typically the kind of a hotel that we're talking about would have some rooms to that effect. Now that said, we couldn't guarantee it because there is no.
Right.
There's no agreement in place, but
Right,
certainly
right.
we would bring that back to our client.
Yeah, because I think, that would be a bonus because, we could obviously use more of that space in town, for our residents. A couple other things. One little concern I do have is I don't want it to become a truck stop. Can we make sure that doesn't happen? If this were to go through, obviously, this is just all speculation, I know, but where it is right off the highway, and if, let's just say it's a hotel, what to prevent, truckers from stopping there for the night?
I think that the question really speaks to the kind of hotel
Okay.
that you'd be interested in. And I think, I can think of some chains, and I don't want to disparage any of
No.
the more affordable, smaller motel chains, but that is certainly not that's not the concept that we've discussed with our client. And as Mike spoke to earlier, given his track record, quite frankly, we believe him when he describes to us what his vision is for that.
Okay.
And can I just add that,
Yeah.
that the economics of the situation wouldn't encourage that. It wouldn't warrant that, because he would not be able to attract the kind of hotel that would provide him the revenue that he needs, given what money he's put into the site, if it were to be a kind of a truck stop motel. So that would
Right.
not be of any value to him.
Okay, that's good to hear, because that was kind of my follow-up question, that it won't be a motel. Would the client be willing to contribute to a North Wilmington substation if this were to go through?
Well, we've not discussed that. Certainly can have that discussion with him. I would acknowledge that the parcel that he's prepared to gift, I didn't get the permission to share that value. We have had it valued. It's a significant amount of money in terms of dollars. And it's, I guess the one thing that I can commit to without having had that conversation with him is to have a conversation with the town to understand what the town's appetite is and how we can help accommodate that, whether it's through the land or infrastructure that's part of the build out of this site.
Right.
I am confident that we could sit down and have those discussions. Yeah.
Okay. Last question, I promise. Does your client, does he own any other property besides what's being proposed in that area outside of this?
Not
I don't know if you
other
can
than
say,
the
but
parcels that we talked about that aren't necessarily part of the development,
right.
but
But
are
outside of
identified
those,
in the warrant article. But I will double check with him. But my impression was that when he started IntelliSense, they began on Upton Drive. They moved the headquarters to a building that was on Johnsman Road, and I think Mike alluded to that still existing today. And actually, this site, the purpose for acquiring it was looking toward a third new headquarters here in Wilmington, and then his business plan changed. So in that context, he has holdings in a lot of places, but I don't believe he has any others in this area.
Okay, I lied. I do have one more question. Ainsworth Street, is there, you know, I know when during the Finance and Planning Committee meeting, I think it was Mr. Soley had spoken, and he had mentioned, he was answering a question about somebody regarding traffic. And I don't recall the exact question or who was, but he had mentioned that they could mitigate some of the traffic towards the back of the property on Ainsworth Street. So is that part of the plan to break through that road? You know, change that as well? I think you did mention that, but
Yeah, absolutely not the plan.
okay.
And I remember the point that you also remember, and the point
Yeah.
that Mr. Soley made. And let me just pull up the size of the property is difficult to get into one snapshot. So to orient folks with this slide, this right here is Ainsworth Road that we're talking about.
Yeah.
The heart of the land that would be, you know, the subject of development would be up here off of this screen. So this piece and this piece are what we all commonly refer to as Ainsworth Road. That would not be the access for any commercial development. It just wouldn't be a viable access for that kind of a use. I think Mr. Soley's point, which was a good one, is that in the unlikely event that this were developed for a residential use, then access up Ainsworth Road is a better point of access. So his point, I think well made, is that if you're concerned about neighborhood traffic and you understandably live in this Woburn Andover Street area, if you're concerned about local traffic, the commercial use with access off Route 125 is less impactful than a residential development that would likely be accessed off of Ainsworth.
Okay, great. Thank you both.
Ms. Sullivan, at the beginning, a little while ago, I thought I saw your hand up. I don't want to pass you over. Did you have some questions you wanted to?
I did, Mike. Thank you. So just to build a little bit, I actually have a few questions and some comments also, but just to build on the Ainsworth Road issue that Lil just brought up. Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, this land were to get rezoned to highway, industrial, or to anything other than residential. And there were problems with the curb cut onto 125. You know, sometimes we hear things are going to happen and things don't happen, or you can't get the approvals that you need. What would then happen?
It's not going to be developed for any commercial purpose unless we can get the access off of 125. That's been made clear.
Right, but if
So it wouldn't be developed.
But what's the guarantee for that? Because I know in the past that you know, things have been rezoned at town meeting in the past, and something happens and things don't happen, and then what people say will happen ends up being a problem because it doesn't happen. So I'm just hypothetically saying, if the property owner were to, would the property owner sell the property then to maybe somebody else? Maybe they wouldn't do it, because zoning is for much longer than, you know, just overnight, is for a long period of time. So I would be concerned that if you didn't get the curb cut, that it could potentially leave Ainsworth Road vulnerable to access points.
Yeah, I mean, I can only say that that we've had that conversation with members of the team, and we have all dismissed the prospect of a commercial development fronting on Ballardvale, which would require the customer base to access the property on Andover Street in Ainsworth. We've just dismissed it out of hand.
So would the property owner today would be willing to sign an agreement to that effect, or
would be willing to sign an agreement? Well,
yeah, to say, you know, well, if we don't get the curb cut, we just won't develop it, or.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do is I will go back to my client, and the team will discuss that specific concern, and hopefully be able to resolve that question to everybody's satisfaction. But as we sit here at this meeting, I'm telling you that I'm absolutely convinced that doesn't happen. Now, a way to convince you of that, we'll have to try and figure that out.
Right. Okay, so that was just to build on Lil's concern, but obviously I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't bring up our water resources and my concerns for this type of zoning in the zone 2. That's water department land that abuts where you're proposing to, donate the land. I just want, I'm just saying so the committee understands that I think it was stated that it was Conservation Commission land, Article 97, but I'm pretty sure it's water department land and not conservation land.
Yeah, you are correct about that.
Okay. I just wanted
So if
to,
I said conservation, my misstatement. But the point is that the land that the town owns currently certainly is Article 97 land and has, the restrictions that go with it.
is the reason why that's I bring it up and that's important because that land is solely used, supposed to be used for aquifer protection because it's pretty close to the water supply. So I guess that's my concern. I mean, despite hotel and restaurant or anything like that, there's a lot of things that are allowed in the highway industrial that's actually can be pretty detrimental to the zone 2 of a water supply. I remember back when the master plan was developed, the impetus was put on taking general industrial parcels in the zone 2 and rezoning them to light general industrial so that it would have better protection for the aquifer. So this is kind of like in the opposite direction that the master plan wanted to go. There's things like, I think Mr. Newhouse, you said something about, like you can't have a car dealership, but you can have a heavy vehicle dealership and a heavy vehicle, I guess, maintenance, how was it, dealership and auto repair body shop rental. So that's under special permit. So that's a concern. Also, there's also, which I don't understand why this is, and it should be removed in my opinion. In this zoning district, you can actually have earth removal too, which I know you're going to say our client would never do that, but land gets passed down to person, and we have no control over that. The only thing that we do have control over is the zoning, and I have problems with that. So I think considering the issues that we've had in the past with contamination of our drinking water supply, I think we have to be really super cautious. And this water supply is already pretty vulnerable to areas of contamination as it is. So I have concerns about that, and I would hope. I mean, I'm hopeful. I know it's probably going to fall on deaf ears, but I am hopeful that maybe there's a way to find a way around this and still get some economic development in this property, but not as something that leaves it vulnerable in the future, even if it's not this 10 years or this 15 years, but 20 years, 25 years down the road.
Yeah, I can appreciate some of those comments. And so first of all, I would just say that as Mike Hara had alluded to earlier, Mike Woods has indicated that he has no objection to this rezoning. And in fact, he's supportive. And one of the reasons, as I understand it, is because of the aquifer protection that it affords by gifting that other parcel to the town and putting the control of that parcel in the town of Wilmington. I certainly understand the question that is raised about, well, what if this owner doesn't own it at some point in the future? Inevitably, properties change hands, and that is true. But in this case, you have a very capable and well-heeled business person who is presenting various options by the way of this rezoning. who has expended considerable resources, more than I'm used to seeing, on a, what amounts to a speculative venture of bringing something. From Cityville, KY. And in terms of, protection and uses in the highway industrial district, the highway industrial district is used in a number of places that we would all expect to still demand responsible development in terms of environmental protection. And in fact, this area right here, this is a layered GIS map, and the cross, the hashed area is the Zone 2 Aquifer Protection District that we're referring to right now. And as you can see, other than one pocket over here, this entire area is in the Zone 2. And so, to turn away from the responsible economic development of this site, when literally all of these other sites that already exist and could be changed as a matter of right to some of the uses that I think we all would find disconcerting, that's a reality. So, we're all, as residents and members of this committee, people who are interested in how the town works and, always have the community's best interests at heart. That's the kind of balancing act that we always do. And I'll take this property owner in this site and the economic realities given where it's located and what's being proposed and who's proposing it. I'll take that all day long, as opposed to the numerous, scores of sites that are right in the same neighborhood that are also in the Zone 2. So that may not necessarily alleviate any one person's concerns, but that is the reality that we deal with on the screen as residents all the time.
Right. So, just to be clear, the areas that you're showing that are already general industrial, and I, for one, was not a proponent of the highway industrial rezones that did take place. That being said, a lot of the areas that are shown were already existing in general industrial, and there's the general industrial zone and the light general industrial zones. A lot of the things that you want, you can still have. The highway industrial zone has other components to it that are actually worse than general industrial. The master plan had proposed or advised that we should take the general industrial zones and rezone them to light general industrial to protect the aquifer. And that's the reality too. It's not my opinion. It's what the master plan had advised. And the town ended up, unfortunately, going in the wrong direction in some of the properties along 125. But today we're looking at an undeveloped parcel that's actually zoned R60. And it's being proposed to be rezoned in the most detrimental industrial zone that we have, in my opinion, because it allows earth removal, it allows heavy truck vehicles to be serviced in that area. And I'm not saying that you're proposing to do that, but what I am saying is that this zone is not what we, in my opinion, in the best interest of the town and to protect the aquifer. And I know Mike Woods is, I'm sure I know that he likes the idea of this other parcel because it gives them a little bit more added protection for the aquifer. And that's all fine, well and good, but we're still dealing with the other piece of the parcel. And so I have concerns about that. I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't want to protect our water resources and voice my concern about the use of land in the aquifer. It's been detrimental to our aquifer. It's detrimental even now. We have contamination issues in that aquifer. So I wish it'd go back and, I wish maybe there had been discussion before, town meeting, and I would hope that maybe if your client really says that wants to do the right thing for the town of Wilmington, that we look at how we can do this and still make sure that that land is going to be protected, not in the next 10 years, not in the next 15 years, but for a longer period of time, because zoning is for a long period of time. I've been doing this now for 25 years, as you all know. So that I would hope that you would do that, because this is our town aquifer. And I know there's an economic benefit, but there's also an economic benefit to have your own water supply instead of having it contaminated and have to go to MWRA, which we're probably heading in that direction anyways. But that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
I just want to comment if I can, and I appreciate the comments from Suzanne, but I think this is a developer or a property owner who is taking the steps to do exactly what Ms. Sullivan has requested, and that is to provide for enhanced aquifer protection, so that the town now has a 19-acre property, and it is going to be given a property nearly that size, 13 or 14 acres, which would do precisely what Ms. Sullivan is looking for, which is to enhance our aquifer protection. So I'm not sure what else we can ask of this person, but certainly we'll go back and talk to him about whether or not he would agree not to develop the property if he can't come off of Ballardvale Street. But I can tell you that that's been our discussion right along. The property, the project that he is proposing would not be viable from any other direction other than from 125. That's the only way the property would be economically viable. And if in fact the property is developed in its current form, and I'm not suggesting that it would be, because our client doesn't want to do that, but if it does, then you lose the aquifer protection, the enhanced aquifer protection that he's looking to give, and you develop Ainsworth Road, because that would be the only way one could go in to utilize the zoning that's there right now. So in my mind, it really makes sense to take advantage of what's being offered here, both from an economic development standpoint and from an environmental standpoint.
Thank you.
So
Ms. Sullivan, I'm going to interject. I'm sorry. I certainly don't want to thwart a good, healthy conversation. But, you know, there's other folks here, and I want to make sure, and I will come back to you, Suzanne. I promise you that. But you know, we want to hear from other members here if there are comments, opinions to be shared, or questions to be asked. So let me make sure that other members have their voice heard before I loop back to you, Suzanne, if that's okay. And thank you very much. So there you go. I'd open the door, folks. Does anybody else want to?
I will.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, I just, I want to say from an economic standpoint, I think this makes all sense. I think, you know, we've talked about a hotel for a long time. I do hope that, you know, I don't know how much say you folks will have in maybe the other restaurants or that would be going in, or some of the stores, but I do hope that you look at your client looks at the surveys that we've done, the surveys that we're going to continue to do, and you all seen all of the conversations on the community boards of what the residents, you know, prefer in the area. But one of the other things that, you know, no one did mention is the creation of jobs in the area. And, you know, I know a lot of times in communities and big chains that come in, they, you know, make a commitment to make it a priority that they're hiring, you know, residents first. There's a priority for residents, and also a commitment to be strong community partners. So I would hope that that's part of your conversations as well with your clients. But I think it's an ideal location, and I applaud you for all the work that you've done on this.
Thank you, Nancy. Others, please.
Mike, if I can add, I echo Nancy's comments. I fully support this proposal and this idea to bring this great use to town. I think it's long overdue to have some sort of lodging accommodation in Wilmington. If you look at all of our surrounding communities, for the most part, a lot of them have hotels. I think it'd be a great thing to keep our Wilmington business folks directly in town. A quick question for the gentleman on the phone. Has there been any talk of incorporating some sort of green space or some sort of placemaking activity to this parcel? I know ultimately that could be tasked to the developer, but in terms of giving a little something to the town or creating some sort of public incentive in this project, restaurants, a hotel, they'd all benefit from some sort of community green space and vice versa. So just wondering if there's any conversation about that.
I don't, Mike, correct me if I've missed it. I don't recall any of that conversation with the client. But I'm quick to point out that the town, if it were to accept the gift of that property, it would be up to the town how to use it. So certainly it could accommodate that. And then just in terms of, it may not speak directly to your question about community green space, but certainly the site would have considerable green space in terms of the footprint only being about 9 acres, while the site is more to the order of 19, if I remember right. So the considerable green space, absolutely. The 13, 14 acres to be given to the town would be, whatever the town would think is, good use for that. I think that does speak to your question, if not the community green space on the finished site.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else?
I would just add that I agree with Nancy and Patrick, and I think the restaurant option is very appealing, as I know that was something that the residents had spoken about in the survey. And so not really a question there, but I think it's a very appealing project, certainly a good location, and I would be behind it.
Thank you, Paul. Just to be clear, or you guys all know this, we're a committee of volunteers with the effort to try to create an inviting environment for economic development, for commerce. We have no regulatory teeth. We have no authority here. So the boards and committees in town that would have regulatory authority over any proposal would have the opportunity to exercise their tasks. So any proposal, and Mike, if I say this incorrectly, please correct me, but any proposal that eventually does come, assuming this zoning change does take place, if it were to be voted in favor of at the town meeting, then in a subsequent over a period of time, next year or whatever, one of these proposals or some variation of it would then go forth and would have to go through all of the regulatory process with planning, with potentially zoning board of appeals, with conservation, and all the things that a developer has to go through. So, we're talking hypotheticals tonight and about how it would be great for a hotel and restaurant or for a medical building or for whatever. Any of these are interesting and intriguing to talk about, but at the end of the day, whichever one gets proposed has to go through and meet that muster in order to be granted the permit to go into place. And I imagine that part of that permit granting process would be, what are the environmental impacts and what can be mitigated and given back in order to offset some of those environmental impacts. So maybe I didn't say that well, but I just want to make it clear that, if we as a committee or if we as individuals on this committee were to vote in favor of this, that doesn't mean we're getting a hotel, right? There's still a process that has to be undertaken by the property owner before anything goes there. So I just wanted to make that clear and certainly give an opportunity for other folks to have their voice heard. Mr. De Palma, are you raising a finger to me, or you have to unmute yourself, Gary? Mr. De Palma, did you want to speak? He's muted. I don't think he knows it.
Did you ask me, Mike?
No, I was asking Gary. but it sounds like, looks like no. So, oh, there he is.
There we go.
Gary, yeah, we're not at the public comments yet, but as a
Oh,
selectman.
I'm sorry. I
Oh,
apologize.
that's okay, man. You know what? You're a selectman, so you get special dispensation. Is there something you'd like to offer?
Thank you. Mr. Newhouse, I have a number of questions, but most of them I will address at town meeting. But one question I do have, if your proposal goes through, is it true that you can decide that you can make it an Amazon warehouse? That you are zoned for an Amazon warehouse?
It would permit a warehouse use, absolutely would permit a warehouse use. Whether or not an Amazon, I have no clue about how big an Amazon facility needs to be. But yes, it could be used as a warehouse distribution use.
Thank you. And the only other question I have right now is I am interested in this project. I think it's something that Wilmington could use, but I'm disappointed in the way it was presented, simply because you never had any type of participation from the general public. That being said, if you're so adamant about this project having to have 125 curve cut, why, since the last town meeting, have you not applied for one?
All right, so let me take a couple of those questions and comments in order. First of all, with regard to public participation, I'm not aware of any other petition article, and there's got to be 60 odd petition articles. I'm not aware of any of them that have done any more presentations in public and created public forums than we have. This is how a petition article is brought to town meeting. So we're following the same exact process as every other petitioner. Albeit we have taken extra effort to get to town officials to make sure that we understand what their concerns were. And for an entire year, this particular property owner put his plans in limbo in an effort, A, to make sure that we fully understand what the town administration's concerns and interests might be. And secondly, to bring it to a town meeting that certainly will be closer to what we've all experienced as normal, as opposed to last year's town meeting. So with regard to that, I'm at a loss as to why
I've spoken to the manager. The manager
other
advised
than
me that you haven't spoken to him in quite a while.
well, respectfully, sir, of the 60 odd petition articles, how many folks have held public forums?
How many
I don't know of a
these
single
articles are
one.
This big?
Excuse me?
Could I just make a comment?
How many of
Did you
this-
say
this is
that
an
we
impressive-
haven't
I am
spoken?
excited for this.
Gary, did you say that the town manager said he hasn't spoken to us?
In quite a while.
Well, in fact, I spoke to the town manager, what's today, Monday. So I don't know what quite a while means, but I would be happy for you to call him and ask him if I had a conversation with him on Monday. And
I
I've had
talked to him last
conversations with the town manager several times. We've had conversations with the planning director. We've had conversations with the water and sewer director. We've had conversations with the last two chairmen of the boards of selectmen, Mr. Bendel and Mr. Eaton. We've had formal meetings. So I'm not sure where you're getting your information. Maybe Jeff forgot that we had a meeting on Monday.
Well, it wasn't Monday. It was prior to that, but what I want to say is that I'm excited for this. This is something Wilmington's needed for many years. And all my concern is that it's done right, done properly. And it's not something that I think is going to be a detriment to Wilmington. I think it's going to be an asset to Wilmington. I personally would have liked to seen it out in the public more than it was, so that people could get a grip on what you're planning on doing. Personally, it's an exciting time for the town.
to finally being able to get possibly a hotel. It will draw to the town, no doubt about it. And in the area it is, it's not going to be in the way you're proposing it. It's not an adverse effect to traffic. But again, it was just, these are questions I had. And the other question, of course, as Mr. Newhouse reiterated to, was that it could be a warehouse. I mentioned a specific name, and maybe I shouldn't have, but I was just asking that question. But this is not a project that I think we should, as a town, walk away from. But also, we should be more heavily involved in it on what your actual designs, basic designs. I'm not talking full scales or anything else, but how you're perceiving this to look. It is something like, again, I know I'm repeating myself, but it's not, these are nice. These drawings are nice, but people like to see things too. Seeing is believing, as they say. I'm concerned with the curb cut on 125 and actually what is going to be sitting in there. I know you've made basically 3 proposals. It sounds like just from tonight, I get the feeling that you're more excited about the hotel than your other proposals, which is, I'm glad to see. And I think it would spur the area too. But these are just some of the random questions I have. And I appreciate you allowing me to make these comments. And let's see what happens. But thank you.
Well, I'm going to respond, and certainly if either of Mr. Carr or Mr. Newhouse would like to, they certainly can. But it isn't a project yet. So I think when and if the zoning does get changed, the project will become a project, whatever that project is, whether it's a hotel or a medical building or an office building or some hybrid version of those. And I would imagine during that process, it'll be very public. I mean, it has to be by virtue of it being we have an open government, as you know, Gary. So, I would imagine that the proposer working through his agents would want to make this as public as possible and garner the input and feedback of the community for both for the benefit of the site, but also for the benefit of the community. And so, that's a little bit cart before the horse. I'm hopeful of this very same thing that you said, Gary. I'm hopeful that the community would be involved and would have some voice and would be heard for their concerns. And there are regulatory processes that exist and are in place to make sure that those things do in fact happen. So none of this happens behind closed doors. This is all an open process. So I want to loop back. I'm really sensitive of time. We're at 2 hours now, folks, and that's not at all consistent with how we run our Economic Development Committee meetings. We're an advisory board, and so again, we don't have regulatory teeth here. I don't want things to get controversial. It was really just informational purposes. This was an article that on its face had economic impacts. And I thought, for no other reason, I thought that it behooved us to get a little bit better understanding of it, because I believe that the people of Wilmington will potentially look to us as members of this committee and us and our committee on the whole for some guidance and for our opinions on this. And this meeting is going to be broadcast, so your opinions matter here and matter to our fellow residents, which is why, again, I wanted to make sure that we had an informational meeting from Mr. Newhouse and Mr. Kyra. And I don't want to thwart conversation, but I do want to be very respectful of the fact that we're not the Board of Selectmen. We don't go until the business is done. We want to try to get this work done. And I'm talking long now. So we have a couple more agenda items still yet to get through. I don't want to stop anyone from asking more questions. Suzanne, I'm pointing at you. I would welcome more questions if it's in the context of economic development. And if it's not, I'm confident that both Mr. Carr and Mr. Newhouse would engage in conversation with you personally to help you get a better understanding of it. But if it's not in the context of our committee, I'd ask you maybe just to hold off a little bit. It's up to you. You decide if it is or it isn't.
I just want to say, Mike, I mean, the hotel, the restaurant, and all that, yeah, that'd be great economic development, general service restaurants. We've talked about that so many times. In Mike Shampoo, you've talked about, because there's 3 Mikes here, Mike Shampoo, you had mentioned, yeah, this has to go through a regulatory process through town boards and committees. And that's absolutely true. But my only concern is the by right land use under highway industrial. And that is my concern. And, I guess when I look at things, I look kind of like in a planning point of view and, protecting the water resources. And that is an economic development issue in a way, because, our water resources are completely tied to economics. So those are my concerns. When you have a by right use, when that's rezoned to that, it can be any of those uses on that table can be used in that district. And yes, and those can go to the town boards and get their approvals too. And that's the concern. The hotel's not the concern. The restaurant's not the concern. It's all the other stuff that goes with that rezoning that's a concern. And I mean, if maybe, somebody can ask the developer to, to make some concessions and put restrictions on the property to make sure some of those detrimental things in the aquifer cannot happen on that property, I would feel much better about it. But that's just my position. Now, I won't say anymore. Thank you.
No.
Let me say it.
You said it earlier. You wouldn't be you if you didn't bring that up. So
Wouldn't be me.
Mike, I just wanted to say, I think this was a good idea, because so many times, like with the Textron Avco property, we kind of were in after the fact, after everything was said and done. And I know Suzanne wrote a letter saying, could it be mixed use and so forth and so on. And so I appreciate that we've kind of got a heads up on this. If it does go the way that I guess we're all hoping it goes, and that the aquifer is protected and everything else. But if it does go that way, that's the time when we now know we might have a voice to represent the town. For example, people would love a brew pub, they don't want another Chili's, that sort of a thing. So it'd be nice to kind of have that voice, and we've got a long enough heads up, I think, to have that voice if the time comes. So I appreciate you having this sort of presentation to us.
Yeah, thank you, Carol.
Mike, that's all I wanted to say is that I think it's has a lot of potential. Mr. Kara, Mr. Newhouse, thanks. I mean, I'm just speaking on behalf of myself right now, Robert Oliveri, not the town, not the Economic Development Committee, but yeah, I think it has a lot of potential if it goes through all of the processes and checks all the boxes. Yay. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank
sir.
you all for your time. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah, unless there's anything else burning, I will. I guess we'll conclude that portion. Thank you, Mr. Newhouse. Thank you, Mr. Kyra, very much for taking your time to be here this evening.
Thank
We
you.
look forward to seeing you guys at town meeting and maybe before.
Okay, good night.
Good. Thank you again.
You're well. Stay healthy.
Thank you.
So I want to apologize to all of you. Let's see if we can get through this real quick. Going back to agenda item number 4, which I blew off unintentionally, which is to review this flyer that we intend to hand out at town meeting. It was remassaged by Nancy today. Thank you very much. Nancy, I think
Nice job, Nancy.
this is the one that you sent to me earlier today. I hope I got the right one on screen. So I guess I wanted to make sure everyone's cool with this, and I can go slower if you want to read through it. But it's one piece of paper printed double-sided. We'd print up a couple hundred of them or so, and we would need volunteers from this committee to be at the Shriners Auditorium by like 8:30 on May 1st, maybe even slightly before then, just to set up and make sure we're good. And really just to hand out, and really that's a thought. Do we want to hand, I would like to hand them out as opposed to put a stack, but it's COVID. And I wonder if they're going to say we can't do that.
Well, that's a good point.
Mike, I can just tell you, having come from the 4 to 6 pre-meeting for town meeting this evening, that was one topic of discussion. So there are a couple of flyers that are going to be put out specifically around, you folks might remember we did some consent agendas last year to help move the meeting along, and it actually went over very well, I think, with the crowd. People seem to like it. So there is the proposal of that happening. There's also a special town meeting within town meeting. There'll be some information about that. So I only bring that up because there are going to be stations where people can pick up packets of information without any staff handing them out.
So that being said, it probably makes sense. I know in previous town meetings, there's been folks handing out pamphlets or whatever about subject matter that's going on. I think given the context of COVID and stuff, we should probably assume that we wouldn't be able to do that. If we are granted that opportunity, then great. If not, we want to be on that table of other content. So we will have these printed. Does it warrant taking a vote here tonight? Do you guys think we should to codify it, or have we already voted and is everyone okay with this?
Is it a packet that's given out, Greg, or people, they're at a table and people just pick it up if they want it?
I don't know the specific on that, but I think I know where you're going, Nancy, and I'm with you. I would love to have this included if that's where you're going.
Right.
Okay. I'm happy to ask about that as soon as tomorrow, Mike, to see if we can include this in.
Yeah, Greg, if you wouldn't mind spearheading that, just to let us know how we should get these into the hands of the right people. I'm glad to go there in the morning with a stack of them, if that's the right thing to do, or if there's packets being assembled, let's get these printed and inserted.
Yeah, Mike, we find ourselves in a unique situation without a moderator and without a chairman of the Board of Selectmen, so we
can do anything we want.
Yeah.
Great. So do I hear any objection to the plan that was just discussed?
No.
Then that is the plan that we will engage in. Thank you all very much. Nancy, thank you for putting the final touches on it. Greg?
tomorrow, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mike, I just might say that depending on how, whatever Greg comes back with as far as how they're going to be distributed, for example, if it's going to be kind of random on a table versus a packet that everybody's going to be directed to, it might make sense to have somebody there kind of saying, hey, you know, head over to this table and there's some really interesting information here. And I don't know if in general that will happen anyway, to direct people to that table. But you know, I know myself, if I go in and there's stuff and no one directs me there, I never even look at it.
Yeah.
You know?
Mr. Chair, I think that's a great point, Carol. Thank you. I would actually request through the new moderator, whoever it may be, that be included under announcements.
Yeah.
Be announced throughout the day, perhaps, especially.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I intend to hover. Wherever the flyers are, I'll be hovering. At least through the beginning part of the meeting, just to make sure folks aren't passing us over.
Great.
So yeah,
I would also just make the point that maybe this is something that we also email out to the folks that we have on our email list.
I have no objection to that.
Excuse me. Another thing that we might want to consider, I know we can't do it for this flyer. I don't think we have time to do it. I don't know, maybe we do, but is to have a barcode on it. So, you know, so if someone's sitting there at town meeting and, you know, they can just, you know, hover their phone over the barcode and it takes them right to the website. I mean, can we develop something like that to put on all our material?
It's a free QR code. And I think Mr. Bendel's an expert in such areas.
Another topic of discussion at the 4 to 6 meeting here earlier. We're up, yes, Suzanne, I'd be happy to do that for this committee as well. But we'll be doing that for town meeting for those to help with the touch list. Those who want to see specific cost estimates for articles, they can scan their camera on the QR code to the town website with the most up-to-date information.
Great.
Awesome.
Greg, can I ask you offline or whatever? No, I'll ask you now, but when you're offline, could you coordinate with Nancy and perhaps you can help her generate the QR code, and I think she can edit the document and we'll finalize the document with that.
Happy to do it. Yeah, it's very easy. And also I would just add that I would request through John O'Neill, our town IT director, that if we felt confident enough in this flyer that we should have him posted out on the town's social media.
Yeah, yes. I like that idea.
All good.
Aye.
Excellent. Yeah, a lot of good plans there, and thank you. It's just part of communicating who we are. I think it has taken some time for folks to recognize that we even exist, and I think we're finally sort of getting recognized, and that's a good thing. All right, thank you all for that. We will quickly talk about number 7, which is the LRRP project, Local Rapid Recovery Planning Project. This is the grant that we are working with the consultants, Kevin Price and others, from Barry Dunn Consulting. And just to update the rest of the committee, today, Mr. Price and representatives from his office came to Wilmington and walked the corridor from up and down Route 38 and 129 a little bit, and they got firsthand glimpse at the areas of interest, or the area of the study, and really the areas of opportunity for tremendous improvement. Took a lot of photos, took a lot of notes. We had some good conversation. It was myself, Nancy, and Valerie, and thank you you two for taking the time to do this. And we didn't really do much other than usher them and give them a little bit of context about some of the vacancies that are in place, and really just give them a sense of some history. And so from that, they're going to sort of cull it over and bring it into a presentation that they will submit to the state to document the area of study. And so that was really the first big nip in this project. The next part will be submitting it to the state. And then from that, they will start to literally develop some suggested projects that we could pursue. And they will even hopefully make recommendations as to where we can identify some funding sources to implement those projects. So that whole thing will be delivered in its fruition in August, but there will be presentations along the way, and they're going to talk to us about how those presentations will take place. Just that was an FYI update on where we are in that process. Stay tuned.
I just also want to take a second and thank the folks that did get the surveys out to the folks on to the businesses, and pounded that pavement to get those flyers out. So thank you, Miriam, Rob, Carol, who else? Mike did it, Suzanne. So thank you, all of you, for your help in the last couple of weeks with that. I think to date we've had about 65 survey responses, and talking to Kevin today, he said that that's pretty good, 25% response rate. He was actually pleased with. So the survey closes tomorrow. Val's going to do one last shot tomorrow out to the group, and it will close tomorrow at midnight. So we'll probably have a few more. But I just wanted to thank you for that.
Nancy, were you able to update? Did you get some good information to update your list so that you had a better contact list?
Yeah, we do. We have, so we're keeping an updated master list. There are a lot of changes, lots of edits. So I guess this will be the list we'll be using going forth, because we have a lot of good information now. A lot of added, a lot of added emails, thanks to all of you. So some changes to addresses, businesses closed, things like that moved out of the area. So it's it's getting there. Ongoing list.
Good. I have business cards for you too at some point.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy, for recognizing the folks that contributed there. It was a team effort. Many hands make light the work. Agenda 8, new business, member statements and discussion of agenda items for the next or future meetings. Is there anyone who would like to yell at me about stuff that we're not talking about?
No, but I think we should thank Nancy too for all the work.
Yes.
Thank everybody. I think we should thank her for all the work that she's done. Seriously.
Publicly, we certainly should. I thank her every day. Thank you, Nancy. I agree, Suzanne. Thanks for bringing it up.
I also want to say, I had brought up at the last meeting about, adopt an island and stuff, and agenda was so heavy today, I just didn't even want to go there, but I do have some information on it. And it basically, if you want me to go through it real quick, Mike, it's not going to be long. It's just basically, it's volunteer based. So if you want to do it, very few towns actually take on like an adopt an island program. It's usually based somehow with a lot of times, a Chamber of Commerce or, people in the community that are willing to kind of run the program for the town administratively. So I actually did put something out in the community page asking people like, what do people think about that? Like people interested, and I just was blown away with all the comments of all the people that really want to do stuff. I mean, I figured maybe, 10, 12 people. No, it was like, I don't even know how to manage it, to tell you the truth. There was so many people. I actually started a Facebook page called Beautify Wilmington. Everybody just wants to make the town beautiful. So
I love that.
Yeah, so I started a Facebook page, and I don't know where to go from there, but I figured if we could get everybody together, and maybe start figuring out a way to do some type of administrative process to get where we need to go, and maybe ask the town for some guidance, because, you know, we can't do anything without approval or, you know, a partnership with the town. So, so I don't know, I guess stay tuned. That's what I've told everybody. I'm not sure where to go from here, but I guess I'll figure it out.
I
guess.
don't want to gloss over that because I think there's a lot of interest. I think we already, our committee indicated a lot of interest last time we met. And I saw your post and I saw there was a million, you know, folks, not a million, but a lot of folks that chimed in. So clearly there's interest for this concept. And in the context of 8/18 on Wednesday night, I don't want to blow it off or blow over it because we're trying to rush. So keep on working on refining this idea, Suzanne, and I promise you, you will be an agenda. This will be an agenda item with you spearheading it at the next meeting. Is that sufficient?
Sure, I'll try to come up with some kind of a plan. Yep.
And Suzanne, I mean, the folks that did do it in town, that, you know, the Garden Club and the League of Women's Voters were the ones that have always done this in the past. So I don't know if, you know, anyone that was.
They don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
The league is like long gone. I used to be a member of the league like a million years ago.
Oh, okay. So, all right.
Yeah, they don't exist.
No, I know they don't exist. Yeah, but all right.
But I think it's worthy of its own agenda item.
Definitely, definitely.
Offline, you know, between now and our next meeting, Suzanne, if you want to talk to me or any of the other members here, or if the members here want to reach out to Suzanne with ideas or thoughts on how they can contribute to this, that's completely fine. Let's just, no 6 of you should meet isolated with Suzanne about this subject.
For the next agenda, I know you were going to talk to Marie about the empty storefront initiative that they have going on there.
Yeah.
If you could put on the agenda item for next time that, and also if you could ask her, I had alluded to some sort of a link, because I think there's wonderful information for businesses that aren't necessarily for us. And our page would be the perfect page to link that stuff. If you could talk to her, maybe about, you know, all the different things that she put up on her slide that would afford businesses all kinds of opportunities for financial or assistance or whatever.
And she also mentioned the municipal, I wrote it down, you know, some, municipal help also.
Yes.
I thought, by the way, what she brought was really awesome. And, you know, we were kind of rushed in it, so I didn't want to comment on it. But I mean, I think there's a ton of potential there.
We should keep that relationship strong. And if we ever are scratching our head about how do we do something, we call her, and you know, she may not have the answer, but she might point us in the right direction.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Thank you again. Anybody else for agenda items? I did get both of those. Very well. Moving on to 9, public comments, which we had someone on the phone, but we don't anymore. Valerie, are we clear?
Yeah, there's nobody here except for us.
Okay. Oh, this is nice. Sorry. Next meeting date. Today is April 14th. That would mean that we'd be looking at, sorry, I can't do it. Anybody have any suggestions? Where's my calendar? April 14th, May 12th. Wednesdays stink, but that's just me.
May 12th?
Is May 13th out of the question?
What day of the week is that?
The 13th is Thursday.
It's okay with me.
I think I'm okay with that too.
Same here.
Is May 11th an option?
May 11th. I'm looking.
Yeah, I'm busy on the 12th, but yep, the 11th is good for me.
I'm okay on the 11th.
Same.
Anybody not okay on the 11th? Fine, Miriam, we'll do it on the 11th.
We're having, I don't know what the school committee just voted on our senior prom, but our senior prom is planned for the, no, actually, maybe it's not. Never mind. I just have it on my calendar like that, but the 11th sounds good.
Do you have a preference?
The 11th, I would prefer the 11th if we
Okay,
can.
that's it. Done.
I thought you meant, did she prefer her prom or this committee meeting?
That's funny. All right, so May 11th is the next meeting, and doggone it, I think we've done it. Yeah, a little longer than normal. I will endeavor to try to keep things more to our schedule. Oh, wait a minute, Lil and Sally.
Yes.
I don't want to get off. May 11th, I guess to be determined what your role on this committee will be, I think, right?
True.
Yeah.
TBD, we'll see.
Indeed.
You don't want to put the,
The cart
horse-
before the horse, indeed.
yeah, that thing. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that'll be a topic that could be an agenda item.
There you go.
Depending on how it goes.
We'll
Yeah.
adapt. We'll adapt. Very well. We're at 11, which is now adjourned. So I would accept, unless there's any specific commentary that needs to be had now.
Mike, I sent you the QR code.
You sent it to me?
I already generated it, so I sent it to you, okay?
Wow, that was fast.
Wow, I'm impressed.
Wow, awesome.
Really?
I only did it because I don't know if we have the ability to add it to the flyer before I know we kind of all approved it, but if everybody's okay, I'd love to squeeze it on the flyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Nancy?
Absolutely.
You
Oh,
just want to just send it to me. I'll fix it and send it back in a PDF.
I'll do it.
Right after this meeting.
Good. Thank you. Thank you both. Can we adjourn the meeting now?
Yes, please.
Yes.
I motion to end.
All right. And Nancy made that motion. Who's got a second?
second.
Second.
All in favor, Paul?
Second.
Yes.
Paul's a yes, Mike's a yes, Carol,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Valerie,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Miriam,
Yes.
Lil,
Yes,
Rob,
please.
Yes.
and Patrick.
Yes.
Bless you all. Thank you all very much for your
Great
time. and your
meeting.
patience
Great
tonight.
meeting.
Have a good night.
Stay healthy.
Hey.
Right.
Thank you.